Welcome to Pod Save America live Q&A. With me here, John Lovett, Priyanka Arabindi.
Hey guys.
We're ready to go. We just had a hearing. Explosive. We just had an explosive hearing. Bombshells.
Where did these people learn to ask a question? Where did they learn questions?
I thought the questions were pretty good.
Some of them.
All right, we have a little setup in case you're just joining us. Guys, you're wearing your headphones. Cool.
Oh, weird.
It's done. It's done.
Lovett's hair is already set, so we can't.
Now we're taking them off?
I'm taking them
Now
off.
we're taking them off?
No,
now we're
you
just
look
taking
great.
them off.
You look great.
Thought I was doing a pod. I'm not doing a pod.
You still look great.
Can someone get Mr. Lovett a comb?
My hair.
Travis.
Can we fly in a comb?
Okay, so today, under subpoena, Special Counsel Robert Mueller testified before the House Judiciary Committee about the obstruction volume of his investigation, and then he went to testify before the House Intelligence Committee about the Russia volume. So he's back-to-back hearings. So we have a few clips that we want to show you guys that will be like a little bit, some big moments from these hearings. From the Judiciary Committee first, a big moment was when Chairman Nadler asked about obstruction and exoneration.
So the report did not conclude that he did not commit obstruction of justice. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And what about total exoneration? Did you actually totally exonerate the president?
No.
All right.
Mood lighting. All right, and then a big moment from the hearing before the Intelligence Committee was this line of questioning from Chairman Schiff on Russian interference.
Dr. Mueller, your report describes a sweeping and systematic effort by Russia to influence our presidential election. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And during the course of this Russian interference in the election, the Russians made outreach to the Trump campaign, did they not?
That occurred over the course of, that occurred.
Apart from the Russians wanting to help Trump win, several individuals associated with the Trump campaign were also trying to make money during the campaign and transition. Is that correct?
That is true.
Paul Manafort was trying to make money or achieve debt forgiveness from a Russian oligarch.
Generally, that is accurate.
Michael Flynn was trying to make money from Turkey.
True.
Donald Trump was trying to make millions from a real estate deal in Moscow.
To the extent you're talking about the hotel in Moscow?
Yes.
Yes.
When your investigation looked into these matters, numerous Trump associates lied to your team, the grand jury, and to Congress.
Number of persons that we interviewed in our investigation, it turns out, did lie.
Mike Flynn lied.
He was convicted of lying, yes.
George Papadopoulos was convicted of lying.
True.
Paul Manafort was convicted of lying.
True.
Paul Manafort was, in fact, went so far as to encourage other people to lie.
That is accurate.
Manafort's deputy, Rick Gates, lied.
That is accurate.
Michael Cohen, the president's lawyer, was indicted for lying.
True.
He lied to stay on message with the president.
Allegedly by him.
And when Donald Trump called your investigation a witch hunt, that was also false, was it not?
I'd like to think so, yes.
Well, your investigation is not a witch hunt, is it?
It is not a witch hunt.
When the president said the Russian interference was a hoax, that was false, wasn't it?
True.
Russia committed federal crimes in order to help Donald Trump?
When you're talking about the computer crimes in the charge
Yes.
in our case, absolutely.
The Trump campaign officials built their strategy, their messaging strategy around those stolen documents?
Generally, that's true.
And then they lied to cover it up?
Generally, that's true.
All
Okay,
right.
so these are some of the standout moments. I know they're certainly not all of them. I'm curious about your primary takeaways from all of this. And our first question going into this is, how effective do you think the Democrats were today in laying out the case for the American people? And how will this affect calls for impeachment from Congress and the public?
I think that the Democrats were almost as effective as they could be given the circumstances of this testimony, which I think are really important to talk about before we get into anything else. Robert Mueller did not want to be here. he did not want to give testimony. He said when he closed the special counsel's office, the report is my testimony. I don't plan to give any further testimony because I'm not going to add to anything that I said in this report.
He seemed to not want to be in this decade.
This decade, right?
This era, this kind of politics,
and
this
really,
culture.
And really, who can blame him? And so I think, number one, Mueller's reluctance to say anything that wasn't already in the report, including, which I guess they just recently told the Democrats on the committee, Mueller's people, before he testified, that Mueller would not even read segments of the report, which seems like sort of a... You all right there?
I was just seeing a tweet.
Seems...
Tweet started talking.
Just reading his tweets.
I'm keeping up with the news, John.
Seems like... it seems like a suspect decision that's not based in any...
Somebody's
my
TikTok.
God.
I can't...
fucking
It
unbelievable.
was a TikTok. Somebody's fucking TikTok got into my feed. See, I'm reading about the report. Continue.
Anyway.
Fucking TikToks, you know? You can't count on it. You can't... This world with TikToks in it.
Now the explanation for the distraction is longer than the distraction itself. All right. So
Continue, John.
there was no reason that Robert Mueller couldn't have read portions of the report in response to questions. He just decided not to.
Right.
And so he took every effort to make sure that he could not be used by either side as some, for partisan purposes, at least in his mind. So I think his decision on this was a little bit bullshit. The other thing that was hanging over this entire hearing, and it's one of the reasons why I think the intel hearing in the afternoon went better and was more effective than the judiciary hearing in the morning, is what hung over all of this was this decision, this policy by the Office of Legal Counsel in the Department of Justice that you cannot indict a sitting president. And so we get into this early, right? And because Mueller basically says, and he walks this back later, but Mueller basically says, the reason we did not make a decision either way on whether Trump committed obstruction of justice is because we could not indict a sitting president. But he didn't say, if it weren't for the policy that you can't indict a sitting president, we would have charged him. Because, as he said, there are principles of fairness. And if you say, we can't charge you because you're a sitting president, but wink, wink, if you weren't a sitting president, we'd be charging you, it's unfair because basically it's accusing someone of a crime without having any kind of trial for that person to defend themselves. So because Mueller was caught in this mix where he had all this evidence of obstruction of justice, but could not go further than sort of the evidence itself and saying this meant that the president obstructed justice for sure, you have him trying to avoid questions. You have him not wanting to say much. In the afternoon, when it was about Russia interference and all the lies that Trump and his campaign told and everything else that they did and them being unpatriotic and all that kind of stuff, like he was much freer to say what he wanted to say because there wasn't a specific crime he was trying to avoid charging the president with because of this decision.
Yeah. It's a level of care that Mueller's taken and a control over what he says that I think officially goes above and beyond like probity. Like it's a level of caution that I think is not justified. I understand, the OLC fracas is, I think, a good example of this, right? So the OLC memo says a president can't be indicted. They recognize that memo as accurate. Lou asks him, if not for the OLC memo, would you have indicted the president? He says yes, and then he says, wait. I need to say this exactly the way I say it in the report. We did not come to that conclusion because if the OLC memo says you can't indict, then you can't even say you would have indicted but for the OLC memo because of this level of caution that he has taken. Refusing to read from the report, all of it does to me speak to a kind of refusal to stand behind his work. I mean, he sat there very quietly through a lot of conspiracy theories and misleading testimony of Republicans, and I understand the desire to let the report speak for itself, and he still managed to make news despite that. But there's a kind of he's trying to defend the rule of law with like both of his hands tied behind his back, and I find it frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, we should say that the questioning today did lead to Mueller confirming quite a bit of information that I do think is pertinent to whether the president should be impeached. He confirmed that Russia interfered in our election to help Donald Trump, made numerous offers of help to multiple members of the Trump campaign, and no one reported those contacts or interference to the FBI. Instead, he confirmed that the Trump campaign welcomed Russia's help, the president encouraged Russia's help, and then they lied to cover it up. He confirmed that the lies by the Trump campaign and administration officials impeded his investigation. He confirmed that Trump asked staff to falsify records relevant to the investigation, and he confirmed that Trump's written answers were, quote, incomplete and untruthful.
That's a big deal. That last one is new. So a lot of this is simply stating plainly what's in the report, but saying that the president's written testimony. So obviously, there was an interesting line of questioning around whether or not about why Mueller didn't subpoena Trump, and it seems to have really been kind of a practical decision around accepting the written answers and allowing that to speak for the president, in part because they felt as though they'd be in a protracted fight without end over the subpoena. But now we find out that not only did they allow Trump to provide answers under oath in written answers to the special counsel, but that those answers were in some way untruthful generally, right? That's what he said.
Yeah.
He said they were incomplete and untruthful.
Generally.
And then Mueller said, generally.
Okay, so we have a lot of specific questions coming up, and
Sure.
clips to roll and whatnot, but I'm wondering if you are a person who did not spend the entire morning and then your afternoon watching this, what, if you're tuning in right now, like, should your big takeaway from today be? Is there a singular one, or are there multiple pieces of information that you should walk away with?
To me, the takeaway is Mueller's message to Congress and the American people is, I collected all this evidence that the President of the United States obstructed justice. I could not charge him with a crime. There are other constitutional processes for dealing with a President of the United States who has committed crimes while in office. I can't make the decision on whether you should pursue that option for you. I cannot. He's telling Congress, I cannot do your job for you. You can lead a horse. He's led the horse to water, and he cannot make them drink it. They have to decide on their own. And I think also, like, Democrats might have been sort of looking for an easy way out here. Like, it's always like Robert Mueller's going to save us, and I always think that's sort of overstating things. But in this case, it's like, oh, well, Robert Mueller's going to testify, and there's going to be some bombshell or explosive new information that's going to help us decide whether we want to pursue impeachment or not. And Mueller's basically like, there's nothing more I can tell you. All the information's out there. All the evidence is out there. You either decide to impeach this guy or you don't, but don't look at me. I'm not the one who can do that for you.
Yeah, I'd say also the big message, I think, from the afternoon, from the Intelligence Committee hearing is that Robert Mueller and, by extension, all of us should be incredibly worried about interference in our election, and that it was an unpatriotic, dangerous precedent that he seems to be worried has been set and may be repeated.
Maybe he actually, his quote was, they're doing it as we sit here about foreign interference in our election.
And he was asked, are you worried that this is going to set a precedent? And in someone who was tight-lipped and who mostly sought questions repeated to him over the course of this hearing, was right then unequivocal. Like, yes, he's worried about that. He's worried about this being a precedent. His willingness to describe it as unpatriotic, his willingness to kind of try to ring the alarm as much as he seems to want to ring an alarm at all, I think is telling.
Yeah, for what it's worth, those were standout, like, very striking moments to me as well.
Yeah.
And you referenced this earlier. We have a clip of Rep. Escobar questioning Mueller about impeachment itself, and Elijah will play it for us now, and then we can chat about it.
You wrote in your report that you, quote, determined not to make a traditional prosecutorial judgment, end quote. Was that in part because of an opinion by the Department of Justice, Office of Legal Counsel, that a sitting president can't be charged with a crime?
Yes.
Director Mueller, at your May 29th, 2019 press conference, you explained that, quote, the opinion says that the Constitution requires a process other than the criminal justice system to formally accuse a sitting president of wrongdoing, end quote. That process other than the criminal justice system for accusing a president of wrongdoing, is that impeachment?
I'm not going to comment on that.
In your report, you also wrote that you did not want to, quote, potentially preempt constitutional processes for addressing presidential misconduct, end quote. For the non-lawyers in the room, what did you mean by, quote, potentially preempt constitutional processes?
I'm not going to try to explain that.
That actually is coming from page 1 of volume 2. In the footnote is the reference to this. What are those constitutional processes?
I think I heard you mention at least one.
All right. So as we saw at the end of that clip, Mueller basically is saying you referred to one of those constitutional processes. And this person's asking, basically, is that a direct referral to impeachment while he's under questioning from Rep. Escobar? I'm not crazy, right? Does that matter or change anything?
I mean, again, this is one of those cases where Mueller did not go as far as at least his footnote went in the report. Like, I don't know why Mueller didn't just say, yes, that impeachment is one of them.
Yeah.
And that is one of the constitutional processes. And then someone would say, do you think he should be impeached? And then he could have just been like, that's up to you to decide. Like, he was terrified of even saying the word impeachment in a context that wasn't a normative judgment on whether we should have impeachment on his part, which is bizarre to me.
Objectively true that it is one of the remedies available to Congress.
It was also like a little too cute by half when he was like, yes, that is one of the processes that I think I heard you mention one of the processes earlier. Like, it was the word impeachment. So
was the one thing.
You're like, why didn't you just say it?
It just reminds me so much of like that the Simpsons where Lisa's at that terrible jazz club and the person she's with says, now listen to the notes he's not playing.
Okay, so Mueller confirmed in his testimony that Trump asked staffers to falsify documents that were relevant to the investigation. How the hell is this not a smoking gun for impeachment?
All of this shit is a smoking gun for impeachment.
Yeah, you can literally see through the smoke from all the smoking guns for impeachment.
It is that's the kind. It's like it's all in the report, right? Like there's 10 instances of the president obstructing justice. They have laid out the evidence in each instance to why this constitutes obstruction of justice, or why this may constitute obstruction of justice, because of course they didn't determine it. Falsifying records is one, tampering with witnesses is the other, pressuring witnesses is another one, trying to impede an investigation is another one. Like the president, there's evidence that the president did all of this shit, and it's right in the report.
It's worth stepping back to and remembering that a lot of this is gaslight. All the Republicans, all but a very, very select few Republicans approach this hearing not as an opportunity to learn anything, but as an opportunity to kind of drum up conspiracies about Mueller, change the subject, talk about the FBI text lovers and the dirty dossier and all the rest. And actually, to be honest, I think a lot of Democrats, I think rightfully, based on what Mueller said he wanted to do and his reluctance to testify, did approach this not as an opportunity to learn something very new, although many did manage to get new information, but to just elucidate what was in the report, try to give the report a platform, which it certainly deserves, and I think that's a noble goal. But stepping back, everyone talking during that hearing, Mueller, the Democrats on the committee, the Republicans on the committee, the reporters covering the hearing, everybody understands that Donald Trump committed multiple acts of obstruction of justice. There's no question about that. It's undeniable. And all of this is a game to either make that so undeniable that we end up at an impeachment, or to undercut Mueller and undercut the hearing and sow enough confusion and sow enough doubt and talk about the optics and what have you to prevent that outcome. So a lot of this is one step removed from the actual debate, because there's no debating. You look at that report, you look at Trump's conduct, you look at what happened over the past 3 years. There's no denying that Trump has committed impeachable offenses. Every Democrat that's against impeachment admits that he's committed impeachable offenses, and Republicans behind closed doors say the same thing to reporters all the time. So
one thing that got a lot of attention based on people I was looking at while I was watching this was this clip actually that Elijah will play of a line of questioning during the Judiciary Committee hearing about charging Trump after he leaves office.
Could you charge the president with a crime after he left office?
Yes.
You believe that you could charge the president of the United States with obstruction of justice after he left office?
Yes.
All right. So is that answer from Rep. Buck about indicting after leaving office really as big of a deal as Twitter is making it to be? Asked this person. As much as I want it to be about Trump, it seems like more of a general response about the legal process. What did you guys make of this when you were watching?
I think it's not a big difference whether it's a general question about any president or about Trump, because what the question was is, could Trump be indicted after leaving office? And so it's like, yeah, of course he could. He's not sitting president anymore, and the rule only says that sitting presidents can't be indicted. So like, I think that the Mueller walkback of his original comment to Ted Lieu about whether he didn't charge because of the OLC memo and this are both being overblown. It's all the same problem, which is you can't indict a sitting president when he's in office, but at the same time, you can't then publicly accuse him of some crime
It's the same.
with a wink and a nod, because it's essentially he doesn't have a court process to defend himself.
Right, like he can't say, right. It's saying that I could charge Trump after he leaves office for these specific offenses is the same as saying I could charge him with a crime, is the same as saying I could charge him with a crime but for the OLC memo. These are all the things that Mueller is trying to avoid while clearly telling us in virtually no uncertain terms, that's virtually is doing a lot of work, that obviously Trump committed an obstruction of justice. I mean, if at the end of his report it just said, and therefore I refer this information to Congress to investigate as to whether or not Donald Trump should be impeached. If you just added that sentence to the end of the report, it would all completely make sense as an impeachment referral. The words, like the missing notes of jazz, we're supposed to experience them in our mind.
All right. So we have a bunch of questions here, but I'm throwing in one of my own.
Cool.
I'm wondering what well, I have a couple. First, I'm wondering how the message gets across to people. Like, how do you think the takeaways from this, the obstruction, whatnot, like how does that get conveyed to the public at large? And then coupled with that, I'm wondering what your take is on how the media at large, pundits, et cetera, are presenting what we learned today so far.
I think in the first question, if you're just watching this at home, or like most normal people who are not us, you didn't like watch every minute of this live.
Yeah, your work.
But you were just
Right.
catching clips later. If you caught some of the clips that we've been playing here just since the live stream started, you would think it was a pretty bad day for Donald Trump.
Right.
and his cronies. So I think that in the moment, it seems like, we want Mueller to sit up there and be like, he's guilty, impeach him today.
I ordered the code red.
Right, and that's like never going to happen.
You're damn right I did.
But when you look at the entire 5-6 hours as a whole, and you cut out some of these clips that we're doing, like you realize it's pretty damning. Now, if reporters and at media outlets just simply talked about what happened and showed those clips, we'd be fine. And to be fair, a bunch of them are doing that. But then there are the, fucking pundits and pundit reporters, or reporter pundits.
Repundrits.
Yeah, repundrits, whose job is reporting, but whose hobby is to do punditry on Twitter.
Repundrits, let down your takes.
Right, then you'll say the optics are horrible, the optics are bad. Now, why are they saying the optics are bad?
Why are they saying the optics are bad, John?
Because Robert Mueller was like, at times he had to refer to the report. He couldn't understand the question.
Unbelievable.
Right. I don't know what else. They were trying to make it out to be like a dotty old guy.
He's mild-mannered. He asked for many questions to be repeated. He was very careful. He did not raise his voice. He did not forcefully rebuke any insults that were directed at him or his investigation. He did not forcefully articulate any larger case against Donald Trump. He was very measured. He spoke in little partial sentences, and therefore did not provide the kind of apex of drama that
Right.
I think a lot of people were hoping they might see, that we've seen in many past hearings. That's the truth.
If we were doing the live stream or our podcast under oath, and we were walking this very fine line that Robert Mueller is walking with this OLC memo and Justice Department decision, like, and people are asking us a bunch of questions, we'd probably suck because we would be a lot more careful in every word that we said. Like, you can either think about your performance, or you can think about making sure you don't misstate something under oath and that you don't go beyond what you said in the report because you believe that it is either you believe that it's wrong to go beyond what he made a decision.
Yes, and look, you don't go you go to impeachment with the Mueller you have, not the Mueller you want. Do I personally, as a not just as a Democrat, but as a kind of whatever more inherently bellicose political person, do I wish that Mueller brought some more Cholula to the fucking event? Sure I do. And I actually think he's made a mistake. He's his Geiger meter is just pointing a little bit towards Comey, and so like there's just a little bit too much deference. There's a little too much trusting the process to let the words speak for themselves. I think that's why it was a mistake he waited so long to rebuke Barr by giving that statement and letting Barr's words speak for him for so long. And that's why I think today he could have gone a little bit further and a little bit harder. But that is the calculus Mueller has made to defend what he views as the long-term interests. I sincerely believe this, that he views what he is doing as being in the long-term best interest of the rule of law in the United States. We can argue with that, but that is what this person, who I do believe is sincere, took to be his duty. And it's incumbent upon us, given what he gave us, to make the best argument. Jerry Nadler and Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi were not given, Shakespeare in the Park. They weren't. Yeah. They were given something much smaller, but that doesn't mean their duty is any different.
Okay, so now that we've talked about what they discussed over the course of today, I'm curious about if there are any things that you think lawmakers should have been asking about or opportunities that they missed and weren't talking about.
I don't know. Like, I really think they covered just about everything. I do. Brian Beutler noted this too. At the very end there, when Mueller basically said that generally the president was incomplete and untruthful in his written answers, you do wonder if that's the case, why didn't that appear in the report? Because Mueller stuck to so many things that were already in the report and didn't want to go beyond that. And it seemed like he went beyond the report in that instance. I'm wondering like what was going on there, why they didn't probe that a little bit more. But knowing how Mueller is boxed in or decided to box himself in as he did, I don't know what else Democrats could have done. I think there's like stylistic things, which is, Schiff and Nadler and a couple other folks were very good at, one sentence questions to get Mueller's yes or no, or usually a yes. Some other members, I think, like, because Mueller wouldn't read the report himself, like sped through a paragraph in the report and then be like, "Isn't that correct?" And then I felt for Mueller at that point, like they just spoke really, really fast. We can hear the mic because the mics are on. We can hear at home watching on TV very clearly in the room, and a couple of reporters were saying this. In these rooms, you can't necessarily hear the questions in the room, and when someone's speaking that fast, like it sort of gets lost. So I think. Yeah, a couple more members of Congress could have pared down their questions into one sentence questions, but that's sort of on the margins.
Yeah, I mean the one thought I had, and I think this is like very much like sort of armchair quarterbacking because I do think what John said is right. Mueller created a lot of difficulty and really did set the boundaries around what he would talk about, which I think inside of those boundaries, I think for the most part they did fine. I do think there was maybe room to explore a little bit more of Mueller's broader views, let him talk a little bit more about the integrity of the Justice Department. Let him talk a little bit more about the integrity of investigation, because it does seem like that is an area where he is willing to, wax patriotic. And I do think that would have been important. Like, I would have perhaps liked to hear someone ask him, do you think it undermines the rule of law when Justice Department investigations are attacked in a partisan way, for example, right? Questions like that might have gotten him to speak a little bit more openly. But that said, they were bound by 5 minutes, and you don't know till the end of your 5 minutes that use of 5 minutes to try to get at some specific and important aspect of the report wasn't going to work till the end. So I understand. It's hard. I'm normally quite willing to hammer Democrats for how they perform in these hearings, and I can joke about the questions, but I don't have that criticism.
Okay, so we know that Nancy Pelosi, Adam Schiff, Jerry Nadler are holding a press conference in about 10-ish minutes.
Yeah.
But before then, who knows what they're going to say there. What do we think the path forward from today is? If the impeachment dam isn't breaking, what level or type of pressure is needed to get House leadership there after what we've seen today, after what we've known for all this time? What do you think?
Making calls, writing letters, going to their town halls in August. As Dan said when we were on the road last week, focus on the judiciary members, because if the Judiciary Committee by a majority votes to open an impeachment inquiry, it happens. You don't even need the whole House. But, pressure your House member anyway, because if a whole bunch of House members are for it, then it's more likely the Judiciary Committee will make the decision to go forward with an impeachment inquiry. But I do think, I believe the only path forward is impeachment. Impeachment or drop it all, because I don't think, where are the investigations leading us? It's going to be the same dynamic that we saw today with Mueller, is that the facts are known. The information is there. At least, the most damning facts and information are there. High crimes and misdemeanors. And so, yes, we might uncover more information and more facts throughout these investigations, but I don't think anything is going to be as damning as the President of the United States obstructing justice into an investigation of how Russia attacked our election, and obstructing an investigation into the fact that he was involved in an illegal hush money scheme. Those are pretty big deals.
Yeah, if not this president, which president? If not these crimes, which crimes? If not now, when?
Yeah.
If not us, who?
That was beautiful. In case you want to read that to your lawmaker, the phone number is 202-224-3121. Lines are open.
202-224-3121.
3121. There you go. All right. We'll switch gears a little bit before, we'll see if this press conference comes on, and maybe we can throw that on. Who knows?
No, because I, the Tiger, will start in the Capitol Press Gallery, and Nancy, Jerry, and Adam, in their robes, their matching robes, will just sort of come out, weigh in.
There will be a puff of smoke.
Bomp.
All right.
Bomp, bomp, bomp.
Not a...
Bomp, bomp, bomp. Question?
Okay. All right. So,
Bomp.
question...
I'm done.
God. All right. About impeachment. Going into 2020, is it more dangerous for the Democrats to start impeachment proceedings and become the quote-unquote anti-Trump party to those on the right, or to remain divided on the issue and continue to have infighting highlighted in the media?
What a choice.
I sort of think that Democrats being the anti-Trump party is pretty baked into the equation. At this point.
Yeah.
I think it's I think if you're voting for a Democrat, or you're thinking about voting for a Democrat, it's probably because they're pretty anti-Trump. And it's like, I realize that was sort of flippant, but it really is like, it speaks to what some Democrats are really concerned about, right? That they look to anti-Trump, but it's like, that's the Democrats being the anti-Trump party is why we have a historically large majority in the House of Representatives right now and won the election by a historically large margin. It wasn't because Democrats were accommodating of Trump, or said that Trump has some good ideas, but he's just not great on other things. That's not why we won the House.
Yeah, look, and I have my own view on this, which is I actually think impeachment this fall is the compromise position. That if you are worried about spending all of next year talking about investigations, then concentrate those investigations now in a formal impeachment inquiry that gets all the information on the table. And if you believe that you owe it to the Democrats who came out to vote and who have been pushing for Democrats to win the House because they wanted Trump held accountable, then that also argues for doing it this fall. So, I am sympathetic to the counter-argument, but I can't believe anyone views our current condition of Trump being almost impeached, as Democrats argue and squabble amongst themselves, and to some look feckless and to others look weak, is a great place to be going into 2020.
Got it. Impeachment as a compromise position. I like it. Okay, before we get to the fun stuff, we have one other question. This is like the vegetables before dessert.
Sure.
The looming budget deal has taken some blows from the right, and many are concerned about the rise of the deficit spending limit. Do you guys have any opinions on the deal?
I think it was an overall pretty good deal in the sense this is why. For those who don't know about the debt ceiling, it is the stupidest fucking law rule that we have right now, which is basically that every so often Congress has to quote unquote raise the debt limit, which essentially does not mean that Congress is asking to borrow more money to pay for shit. It means that it is authorizing the Treasury Department to pay the debts that we have already incurred as a nation. If you do not authorize the Treasury to pay those debts, we will default on our debt eventually as a nation, and the entire global economy will collapse. That is what is at stake with raising the debt limit.
It's literally like, what if there was just a ticking time bomb under the foundation of your house, and you don't want it to go off? Nobody wants it to go off. But every morning you got to go downstairs and reset it for 24 hours. And you better not forget, or your house blows up.
If you don't want Congress to spend more money and to rack up more debt, the option should be, or the remedy should be, to not pass laws that spend more money, right? That you can do. Once they've spent the money, the idea of having this magic thing called a debt limit that doesn't allow them to actually pay back the debts the money that they already borrowed is crazy. And yet and it's not necessary, and it's not been around since the beginning of our country. It's something that's, happened over the last couple of decades, and now it is a tool that Republicans have used, and they used during the Obama administration, to hold the president ransom for more cuts. So the fact that we made a deal that basically says, we have this debt limit thing which could destroy the global economy if people are playing chicken with it, and we have Donald Trump as president. So the idea that we made a deal to potentially remove the debt ceiling from the equation for the rest of Trump's presidency, potentially, if we get him out of office, to me, that's a good thing. That's good news. That if we beat Trump, that means that for the rest of his presidency, he can't fuck around with the debt limit and possibly cause the collapse of the global economy. Also, by the way, Republicans agreed to a whole bunch more spending, not just defense spending, but domestic spending on things like education, transportation that we all like. So, yeah, I think it's a pretty good deal.
Basically, Donald Trump is a toddler in a playroom, and Democrats and Republicans just snuck in and took the active grenade that was sitting in the ball pit and snuck it out of there and hit it till there's another president.
Yeah. Now some Democrats and some folks on the left are criticizing the deal because they basically lifted the debt ceiling until July of 2021. And they're thinking, okay, if we get a Democratic president in there, that means that in the Democratic president's first months as president, Mitch McConnell could then now use the debt ceiling in July to say to the president, no Green Deal, or we're going to we're not going to raise the debt ceiling if you insist on pushing your progressive agenda. And so Mitch McConnell can use it as a tool to hold the Democratic president hostage. Yes, he might be able to.
Yeah.
But I don't know that there were ever that we only control one house of Congress. I don't know that there were ever the votes there to say, let's eliminate the debt ceiling altogether, though maybe someone could have pushed for that. Or at least let's push the debt ceiling 2 years, 5 years, 6 years down the road. Maybe they could have pushed for that too. I don't necessarily know that the votes were there.
Yeah,
so that's the one criticism of the deal that you could legitimately make. But again, we took the nuclear weapon away from the toddler.
Yeah, it's the debt ceiling. Every once in a while,
Cheers to that.
Just so you guys know, every once in a while, we would just be sitting in there and be like, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen with the debt ceiling? The debt ceiling was Chekhov's gun on the mantle. Third and final analogy on that.
I have started to draft a speech during the Obama administration about how the Treasury would pay its debts if we did not raise the debt ceiling, and it was a speech about figuring out who gets Social Security, who doesn't, when our troops get paid, when they don't. The government suddenly has to move around a bunch of money, stop paying our commitments, stop paying checks, and it's really fucking scary.
Yeah, all of a sudden the federal government becomes Ray Liotta in the final act of Goodfellas.
All right.
How'd you imagine Mick Mulvaney running into Donald Trump being terrified that he flushed the cocaine down the toilet.
You guys just made me think of this article I was reading today about the guy who invented the retweet, and he basically described the same thing. We handed a loaded weapon to 4-year-olds, and
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
I saw that.
Wild.
What a funny
Okay.
thing to be like, I'm so sorry, everybody. The retweet. I didn't know what it would become.
Basically what he said.
I didn't know what it would become.
Yeah. All right. So we're on to the fun stuff now. And we have a guest in studio. The question is, Lovett, comment on a recent article about you testing your jokes in the office. Here with us today, the article was about Shaniqua McClendon, our political director. Come join us at the table.
Come sit, Shaniqua.
Shaniqua.
Not us. I'm banished to the couch, but you can sit at the table.
Why?
Whatever you'd
Whatever you
like.
feel
We're
like.
live, so
We're live.
it's the so
Happening.
theoretically the jacket, not theoretically, in reality the jacket has already been broadcast to
They can see the jacket.
tens of people.
Now, Shaniqua, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Obviously, I wish that please speak into the
employing me.
microphone. I wish
Thank
it
you
could
for
have been
employing
under better circumstances.
These are great circumstances.
It's on.
Real professional. It says it's on.
It says it's on. Do you hear her?
Okay, Elijah.
Hi, Shaniqua.
Hi.
Can you please tell everybody what you said in the article?
The question was, what is something that distracts me?
Mm-hmm.
And Slack was one of my answers.
What was your other answer?
John Lovett coming out to focus group his jokes.
Mm-hmm. And that's something you find distracting.
Well, it just takes my attention. I enjoy it.
Do you consider us rivals?
Shaniqua, an answer that you can
Rivals.
give. An answer that you can give is I refer you to the article.
I like
wanted
that.
to just
We
wanted
do
to let you
Mueller
know.
today. I refer you to the article.
respond in that way.
Do you not like it when I test Lovett or leave it material out? Is that I thought it was fun. I thought it was we laugh. You know, it's a bullpen. Sometimes. All right.
I think it's good to test your jokes so that so everyone's getting a quality show.
Thanks, Shaniqua.
I enjoy it. Everyone enjoys it. That's why we all stop. We look up.
Now you've also
We wait for it.
now you've also claimed that Pundit doesn't like you.
I don't think she does.
Thanks for joining the show,
Lovett
Shaniqua.
forces her to run to me.
Because she does like you.
Only when you make her like me.
She runs to you. When you got down, you know, you and Justine were standing there and she ran right to you.
And twice she went to Justine.
But maybe that's because it's a self-fulfilling, it's a vicious circle where the two of you can't cross this boundary because she thinks you don't love her, you think she doesn't love you.
I think you told her not to like me.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't deny it.
Hurtful.
It is.
He's not saying
hurtful.
anything.
What?
He's like fucking Bob
Are you going to
Mueller up
deny
there.
it?
Listen, obviously, there's been a lot of accusations leveled at Pundit today. That
Pundits in general. It's a
Pundits
tough day
in
for us
general.
people
Tough
to
day for
pundit.
pundits.
Oh, are we about to test this out?
Here, look at this. Look at this. Come on. Come on. Oh, look at that. Come on.
She loves me.
Now, you tell me that that's not the drama that we wanted from this hearing.
So natural.
Thank you for joining us, Shaniqua.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
I'm sorry for distracting you.
Yeah, wow.
This wasn't a distraction at all. Gonna go this way.
All right.
Bye, Shaniqua. Thank you for joining us. Guys, everybody give it up for Shaniqua McClendon, political director.
Thank you. I love working here.
She loves working here,
She is
Her
paid
fi-
to say.
which she is paid to say.
Wow. All right. Let's see. This is another one directed at Lovett. Let's switch it up. What are your guys' thoughts on this new Taylor Swift single? Have you also been the archer and the prey? I don't know what that means. I haven't listened to it. Have you listened to it, John?
Haven't we all been the archer and the prey at some point?
Listen,
I listened to it a couple times on the way home because Emily Favreau, Taylor Swift's #1 fan, is obviously very excited that another song has dropped.
yeah, when a new Taylor Swift song comes out, bells ring in their home like a princess had a baby.
The more I listen to it, it's okay. Usually her entire albums are better than the singles that drop early. I've being in this
This is some
household.
punditry
That's
from you.
punditry. That
For-
is Taylor Swift punditry.
Taylor Swift punditry, at which I have been involved in now since meeting my wife many years ago.
All right. Thoughts on the new Taylor Swift song? I'm reminded of an episode of The Sopranos in which Hesh and Adriana are managing a band, and Christopher Moltisanti screams, Where are the fucking choruses? I almost like the song. All right? I almost like the song, Priyanka.
Got it.
And it could have been her time after time.
Could have.
But I felt as though the chorus to me felt like another verse. That's my honest reaction.
Ooh. I haven't
almost
listened to
loved
this,
it.
so I'm
I
like
almost loved it, and I do like the lyrics. That's it.
gonna walk right out of here and do that
That's
after
it.
this.
Visiting
All right.
day.
Couple questions
Sopranos.
left. Which of Travis's nicknames are you rooting for in his ridiculous poll?
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Squid.
Squid is not a bad one.
Yeah.
Dingbat.
I forget which one I was.
Corn thief.
There was some other
Maybe
good ones.
like
Riptide?
Squishy or something.
What?
Even what's his name? Senator Schatz weighed in yesterday.
Yeah,
Crazy.
Hellraiser.
Hellraiser.
Hellraiser, which that's a little
come
too
on.
generous.
Come on.
Wait, what's some other ones? Oh, Hambone. I kind of like that. Squid or Squirt?
Oh, I think I voted Squirt.
I think I've actually, now that I see it, yeah, well, Squirt is winning 38%. So,
I mean,
there's also Rooster and Corky. I definitely voted Corky on that one.
okay, but you're voting on this. I thought we all were just like, this is happening, we're ignoring it.
Oh, no, I've been voting. I've been voting.
Jesus.
I don't have a lot of other extra things to do in my life.
Okay.
But
This
be
went
on
in the wrong
Twitter and vote for
direction.
Travis's fucking nickname.
Please don't vote, viewers of this. Please don't do that. Okay, last question. Lovett, what are your thoughts on Marvel potentially introducing a gay superhero in Eternals?
So, I saw the report that they were going to add a gay superhero in Thor: God of Thunder, right?
That's what I thought? I'm confused.
I'm very excited about Marvel adding a gay hero. I am sad that the only gay character in the full run that ended in the most recent Avengers movie was a character who appears in one group therapy scene and mentions the fact that he did go on a same-sex date. I found that very disappointing. That said, it is time for some more gay superheroes. Gay kids love superheroes too, and especially 13-year-old kids who are looking out there and looking for heroes to have, and it's genuinely necessary to let everyone see the world through a gay character's eyes, which is what you do when you see a superhero movie. And so far, we've only done it through straight eyes.
That is exciting. Also, Trump is talking now on CNN. I don't know if we're cutting away, if we're ending the stream, what we're doing here. He's giving his first comments.
Are we out of
I
questions?
All right, I think
I
we're
literally
out.
hear him yelling.
I
All
think
right, we're out of questions.
We're out of questions.
All right, we're going to go watch Trump and then watch Pelosi, Nadler, and Schiff announce that they're going to be impeaching him. Just kidding. We
Bump,
don't know.
bump, bump,
Bump, bump.
bump.
Wow.